On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Live from a secure concrete bunker somewhere in Ohio, New Thought Media Network presents Pastor Michael Mangus with Friday's Fireside Chat, spiritual conversation for today. Here he is from the secret radio room, surrounded by thousands of watts, Pastor Michael Mangus.
And as the thousands cheer in the background, good evening to you across the United States and also around the world. It is time once again for another fun-filled throwback. And yes, it is guaranteed exciting edition of the Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network. I am Reverend Michael Mangus. I am broadcasting this evening from the super secret concrete bunker located somewhere around Akron, Ohio. That is so top secret. Only one person, and that is my trusted producer, Diego Reyes. Only he knows the location of the super secret concrete bunker. No one else, especially the Reverend Robert Brzezinski, especially he does not know where the super secret concrete bunker is located. We're going to keep it that way too. Well, hi there. How are you this evening? We have a wonderful show for you tonight. Again, please feel free to interact with us by posting in Facebook or also on YouTube. You may also post in StreamYard too. And again, for all the shy people out there, I know you're out there, you can go ahead and write me. Yes, and that's at pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. The purpose of our Friday evening get together is to put a couple of logs on the fire, get a cup of cocoa, get warm, and for us to get real about what's going on in the world. And you do not have to agree with me at all. But I want us all to have a new thought about what is going on in the world and also our oneness. What is our part to play in bringing about a world that does work for everyone? We do have this evening a wonderful guest. At around the bottom of the hour, a longtime friend of ours and also world-class healer, the former president of the American Holistic Nurses Association. That is the Reverend Dr. Carole Ann Drick. Dr. Carole Ann will be speaking on this evening her brand new book called The Last Journey. Carole Ann is considered to be a leading expert on the topic of death and dying. She's written several books on the subject. So Carole Ann Drick will be here in around 25 minutes to discuss her latest book called The Last Journey. How you doing, Diego? I don't see you there in the background. There he is. Well, hey, happy Chinese New Year to you. This weekend, millions of Americans with roots in China, Vietnam, South Korea, and other Asian countries will ring in the Lunar New Year. Many who follow the Chinese zodiac calendar will usher in the Year of Rabbit, the Year of the Rabbit, symbolizing hope and good fortune. So I hope all of my Chinese friends and listeners have a wonderful New Year. I got invited a couple of years to a Chinese New Year's dinner, and it was absolutely wonderful. All right, let's get to the rest of the news here. A large swath of the Northeast U.S. is gearing up for several days of heavy snow here. Freezing rain or a mix of both that could create treacherous road conditions. Around 7 million people in the storm's path were under a winter weather advisory early this morning as the first round of snow began in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and also Maine. The forecast has also prompted some officials to urge residents to prepare for the storm and be ready for potential hectic commutes. Well, first of all, you should not be out in this weather. Stay at home this weekend. Watch the services on New Thought Media Network. You'll be just fine. But seriously, though, be prepared in areas where stuff may happen. Now, here in Ohio, we have had a pretty mild winter. It was cold for a little bit last month in December around Christmas time, but again, it's been pretty mild around here. So we had thunderstorms here last night. However, it is extremely wise to have extra food and water in the house in case you have to stay there for a few days. In other news, the Biden administration on Thursday unveiled a new program to allow private citizens groups to sponsor refugees from around the world. Under the program, groups of at least 5 individuals can apply to sponsor refugees to live in the U.S. and to help them acclimate to life in this country with the help of a group of nonprofit resettlement organizations. The program, called Welcome Corps, was billed by the Secretary of State as the boldest innovation in refugee resettlement in 4 decades. The sponsor group must raise at least $2,275 per refugee, and those funds will provide initial support for expenses. Well, how about it, New Thought community? How about it? I have shared with you the verses from Leviticus about welcoming strangers from a far off land. And most of us here in the U.S. are descendants of immigrants. So what if the communities of 50 or more individuals here in New Thought would come together and sponsor just one refugee? So as someone who does live in a community of refugees all around me here around the super secret concrete bunker, I almost revealed the location, but we have a refugee community here and they're wonderful neighbors. That's something to think about here. Also, the new 988 National Mental Health Crisis Line has seen a significant rise in call volume since its transition 6 months ago from the former 1-800-273-TALK number. More than 2 million calls, texts, and chats to 988 has been routed to a response center. The new 3-digit number is intended to be easy to remember, similar to how people can dial 911 for medical emergencies. I have said this before and it bears repeating. Ongoing mental health issues are nothing to ignore. Take it from someone who lost a friend to suicide because the voices in his head said it was okay to take his own life. Losing my friend a few years back was a wake-up call for me to get some professional help concerning the anxiety and depression issues that I've dealt with for years. So the answer to your prayer for healing may be to make a phone call for a psychological or psychiatric evaluation. I encourage everyone to talk to someone about the mental pain that you are in. Our ministers and practitioners here in Centers for Spiritual Living are trained to do referrals when necessary. And our affirmative prayer also supports you. It doesn't interfere with any medical or mental help or counseling that you receive. It only enhances your recovery. So if you are having thoughts of harming yourself, of taking your own life, the number is 988. 988. Also, in other news, Google parent Alphabet is cutting 12,000 jobs, or around 6% of its workforce, the company said on Friday in the latest cuts to shake the technology sector. Amazon said on Wednesday it would cut 10,000 employees. Amazon also recently announced that it would lay off 18,000 people. Salesforce is cutting 10% of its staff, and Facebook, parent Meta, has announced 11,000 job cuts. Apple is the rare big tech company that has not announced significant layoffs in recent months. The reason being is they went ahead and they overhired during COVID because that they thought that their increase in business would continue. While layoffs from high-profile firms make headlines, plenty of firms are desperate for more workers, especially tech workers. Those workers are high in demand, from the auto industry to the Department of Veteran Affairs. The labor market, and this was said by Robert Frick, who is an economist, the labor market is still tight, that many tech workers and also workers with other skills are snapped up well before they even collect an unemployment check. And they are more likely to be snapped up by smaller firms, which have a much greater demand for workers than major corporations. Shift happens, folks. I've cleaned it up for this broadcast, but shift happens. Again, I was let go from a position I loved in Pittsburgh during COVID. So my encouragement is that one ending does not mean that your life is over. Again, I support you to talk to your ministers and also your practitioners in your community. Let them love you and support you. Or if you don't have a community near you, let us support you at prayer at ntmedia.org. One ending could mean a new beginning for you if you allow yourself to be flexible and resilient. Take it from one who has been there, done that, and has 2 T-shirts to prove it. Also, mall security confronts a man wearing a Jesus Saves T-shirt. In a video posted this week, a man who described himself online as a street preacher wears a bright green T-shirt with Jesus Saves on the front, and Jesus is the only way on the back. Mall of American security asked him to remove his shirt or leave because they said a patron objected to the shirt. People have reacted strongly to the video on social media, but there is a lot more to the story. And I will just go ahead and paraphrase. What happened was that the gentleman had on the back, not only Jesus is the only way, but he had crossed out the coexist. See that on the shirt? I think that caused more problems than the front of the shirt. Well, what happened was that a police officer came up, a regular police officer, not mall security, came up and said, well, he's allowed to, it's free speech. He's allowed to be in the mall. I'm going to the end of the article. It says, since journalism and journalists lean into the First Amendment for freedoms that we need to do our work, it's worth the time once in a while to explain how all the rights can come with restrictions. They are not absolute rights. It's also worth exploring your state's constitutional provisions for free speech. This case also points out the importance of context. Many public media and news postings described the man's shirt as a Jesus Saves shirt without explaining the more controversial wording on the back. He has been warned before at this particular mall and readily admits that he was handing out religious brochures, or they're also called tracts, and also street preaching. So articles like this one brings up for me, what is free speech and when does it turn into hate speech? I don't know the gentleman in the article. I think he was trying to say that his belief in Jesus is the only way to God and not other religions. Now, the bottom line is that we all have different beliefs, even in Christianity. There's thousands of different Christian denominations alone. So the highest and best route, what would love do? The highest and best route is for all of us to respect other people's beliefs, even if we disagree with them. And also, the meaning of the coexist graphic is for all of us to get along with one another. And for those of you here who think that Christianity in this country is under attack, other countries and other places in the world, including India, who has been known in the past for tolerance, is now under criticism for radical Hindus who are attacking Christians and Muslims in their country. Listen, we all need to get along here. It's okay to disagree with others. We just don't have to be disagreeable. We are remembering this week legendary singer David Crosby, who was a folk rock pioneer and one of the founding members of the Byrds, and also Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. He passed on Thursday, and David Crosby was 81. Crosby was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Byrds in 1991, and again with Crosby, Stills, and Nash in 1997. Among several hits, the Byrds released the 1965 song, Turn, 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 based upon the verses in Ecclesiastes. And also, they were also popular. The same song was popular in the mid-90s, thanks to the feature film Forrest Gump. Also this week, professional wrestler Jay Briscoe has died at 38. For those of you who don't know, I am a wrestling fan. Ring of Honor star, whose real name is Jamin Pugh, died in a headlong collision with another vehicle, whose driver also died at the scene on Tuesday in Laurel, Delaware, according to Delaware State Police. The wrestling world has been in shock since the announcement of the star's death by Tony Khan, the CEO of All Elite Wrestling and the owner of Ring of Honor, of which Jay Briscoe was a part of. He wrote, sadly, Jamin Pugh had passed away, known to his fans as Jay Briscoe. He was a star in ROH for over 20 years, from his first show until today. And Pugh and his brother Mark, also known as Dem Boys, hashtag Dem Boys, were 12-time Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. The man was, from what I understand, he was completely different from his on-air character or his ring character. And he is very much loved and missed in his community of Laurel, Delaware. And so our prayers and good thoughts go out to the Pugh family this evening. 21 minutes, Diego. That's pretty good for me. All right, we'll go to announcements. Hi, I haven't told you the program here. Hi, good evening. It's the Friday evening fireside chat here on your new Thought Media Network. I am the Reverend Michael Mangus, and we'll be having Reverend Dr. Carole Ann Drick. He'll be speaking on her brand new book called The Last Journey, and we'll have her on here in just a few moments. So we're going to do a few announcements, and then we'll take our break and then come back. So yours truly is currently parking himself at Summit CSL here in the Akron area. For more info, go to summitcsl.org. There you will find wonderful information about our Sunday gathering online at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific time. Grab your cup of coffee, your tea, your espresso, your boba tea, whatever floats your boat. And join us on Sunday mornings. It really is one of the best services, I do believe, that I have witnessed in New Thought. And so this Sunday, we are honored to have as our special guest speaker, our staff musician, Reverend John Miller, who will be speaking on what it does. That's from the introduction of the Science of Mind text. So go to summitcsl.org for more information. Please join our Zoom call. It's a great service, and we would love to have you attend. And our service is also simulcast on the Summit Spiritual Center of Akron Facebook page. And our Facebook page also has past broadcast of the Fireside Chat and yours truly when he's praying on the New Thought Media Network. And speaking about prayer, it just amazes me that from the super secret concrete bunker, that when I do prayer here on the network, that it goes around the world. We have people checking in from Europe. We have people checking in from Kenya. We have people checking in from the Philippines. All around the world, people can access this network through the internet. And so what we're asking you to do here is, if you really love our programs, then please partner with us to get this programming out to more people. When you partner with us, the money goes to, again, getting this message of New Thought, this empowering spirituality to the whole world. So go to ntmedia.org/donate, give a very generous one-time gift, or if you'd like, monthly partner, and we will have some important information to share with you in just a few weeks. But I am under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. I'm not allowed to say word boo until the time is right. All right, time for us to go to a break now, and you are watching the Friday's Fireside Chat here on your New Thought Media Network.
You will enjoy psychic entertainer Rick Finbow.
I'm going to give you a general reading first.
He's been helping people realize their potential for over 40 years, offering one-to-one and group sessions as well as keynote performances around the world.
I use tarot cards to help me focus my intuition.
Over 1,800 performances at the MGM Grand Las Vegas. Witness a combination of magic, mysticism, astrology, numerology, and tarot. Rick's shows are rich in demonstrations of ESP and psychic abilities. leaving you with a feeling of wonder and awe.
But there's a lot of things that are happening right now in the world that are amazing.
You just might learn a little about yourself during his show, too.
A new relationship within ourselves.
20 to 90-minute performances are available depending on the venue.
Focusing on what we want.
Psychic entertainer Rick Finbow.
And then the universe will give you more of it and more of it.
For details and booking, go to psychicrick.com.
The views and opinions expressed by Pastor Michael Mangus are generally right. However, they are his own and do not reflect the views and opinions of New Thought Media Network, Centers for Spiritual Living, or any other person living or dead. As they say in the 12-Step Recovery Program, take what you like and leave the rest. Here again is Pastor Michael.
It is such an honor to have on longtime friend and also end-of-life expert, Reverend Dr. Carole Ann Drick's life's work in the quality of life beginning and has begun in assisting natural childbirth and then morphing into end-of-days care, internationally recognized for expertise in holistic nursing, self-care, and also ending-of-days care. She is the director of the Conscious Awareness Center in Austintown, Ohio. With aging parents, Carole Ann discovered her innate ability to assist in peaceful transitions in person and also long distance. Her deep concern for quality of life at the ending of days is reflected in 4 books, numerous journal professional publications, and also 2, not 1, but 2 American Journal of Nursing Book of the Year awards. It is my privilege to have on my good friend, the Reverend Dr. Carole Ann Drick. Hello there. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Michael. I am very excited.
Oh, how wonderful it is to have you on this evening. So you've written several books here. My question is, why The Last Journey? What prompted you and your colleagues to write this book?
Actually, we each had a different reason for writing the book, but my reason actually was my dad and how he died. Very simple story. He woke up in the morning and mom and dad were in bed, and he rolled over and he said, "I just feel so heavy. I feel so tired." And mom said, "Oh, get up, go to the bathroom, and then we'll snuggle for a while. We don't have to get up. It's Saturday." Okay, he did, got back in bed. Mom got up, went to the bathroom. When she came back and got to the door, she heard him say, "Sarah," and he was gone. Wow. Now, my dad has always, his whole life, he was a 7th grade math teacher. You know, he was a Mason. He was a good man. But he was my dad. He was the one that told us what to do. He showed us how to fix things, and he really protected and showed us the way many times when we didn't know what to do. And it just so took me back that here again, my dad was showing us how to do it. He liked to teach how to do it. So what did he do? The final gift that he gave to his family was, this is how you die.
Wow.
You simply let go and you take your last breath. And that had a profound effect on me. And it made me realize that, it really is time to begin to bring death and dying back into the conversation in families and among people. We don't talk about it. And if we do, we whisper, almost like it'll go away if we whisper. Yeah. Yeah. And it's time to talk about it because it is something that is normal. It is natural. And it can be very gentle.
So what happened with your mom then?
My mom, 6 years later, my mom and dad were 6 years apart. And dad was 86 when he died. And when mom died 6 years later, she was 86. And she had a little bit different story as she had a stroke. And at that time, the hospice was in the hospital, was the room down at the end of the hall. As far away as possible. And for us, that was great. She had a stroke. And in the process of having the stroke, I got the telephone call from the nurse. And I was 5 hours away. I lived 5 hours away. And I said, I will be there. And I said, I'm a nurse. What did the doctor say? And she said, the doctor says she'll turn around and, 24, 36 hours, she'll be awake and on her way. And I said, you're a nurse. What is your experience? And she hesitated a moment and she said, she's not going to come back. She is leaving. And I said, okay, will you please do something for me? Will you please put the phone up to her ear? She did say she was responding. She responded if they told her to roll over. Yeah. So she put, and I said, in a very loud voice, I'm going to ask her yes and no questions. Just say she's nodding yes, she's nodding no. So she did. And I spoke to my mom very briefly. And I said, Mom, it's Carole Ann. And it's time. It's time. Keep going into the light. You know the way. It's time. Just let yourself go. We love you so much. We love you. We will always love you. And the nurse said, she's nodding yes. And I said, so Mom, just keep going into the light. You are safe. You get to see Dad. Everything is just as it needs to be. And the nurse says, is this going to take much longer? I have other things to do. And I said, no, I'm just about going. And I just said, keep going into the light. And I left for the hospital. When I got there, the nurse said that after she had talked to me, she had stopped responding. She just went into a very deep light breathing, and within and she lived for about another 24 hours. But it was just that very light, gentle breathing. She literally waited until my brother got there. And then after he left, it was so beautiful because my daughter drove 12 hours to come up to be with her mom. She was a step-down and intensive care nurse. When she walked in, she said, Mom, I want you to go home. I want you to do what you do best. I want to stay, and this is my last gift I can give my grandmother. Well, imagine that for a moment. Your mother's dying, and your daughter says, go home and do what you do best. And my eyes filled with tears, and I just said, honey, tell me what I do best. I mean, and she says, you go home and pray her over to the other side. So 3 days later, I got and I respected, my daughter's wishes. And 3 days later, she called me at 7:45 in the morning. And she said, Mom, now my mom never woke up. She did not respond, but, she was just gently, her body was just closing down very gently. My mom calls, my daughter calls, and she says, Mom, Grandma just died. It was really beautiful. She was struggling to breathe. And I got in bed and I put my arms around her and I put my hand on her heart. And I said, oh, Grandma, You have worked so hard to breathe all night. It's okay. The light has come. It's okay. And she said, Mom, she took one more breath and she was gone.
Wow.
Beautiful ending to it. It gets even better. My daughter, yes, my daughter walks down. My daughter walks down to the nurse's station, and they're in the middle of a report. And my daughter waited till until one of them looked up, obviously annoyed that they were being interrupted, and she said, "Hey," and she said who she was. My grandma just passed, and I just wanted you to know there's no hurry. And one of the nurses looked up and she said, "Well, that's not right. That's impolite. We are in report." And
What?
and my daughter says, "It's okay. I just wanted to let you know." And she says, "Well, she should have waited till after report." Yes. And my daughter turned, walked down the hall. And as she's walking down the hall, my mother was very natural with all that she did and all. And anytime she did interface with medicine, she had reactions. My daughter's walking down the hall. She said, "Mom, I had the biggest smile on my face." And I just said, "Grandma, you gave the medical system the final fuck you."
Can we allow that, Diego? Are you going to allow that to go through?
Was that a yes?
If I get called into the office on Monday morning, I know who to blame.
No, you didn't know.
That's okay. No, that's all right. So your parents, as I understand, they were spiritualist ministers. Is that correct?
They both were. They became spiritualist ministers after they retired. They both were high school teachers. And Dad discovered he had healing hands, which looking back, I think on some level he knew, because when we were little, if we'd fall down, he would always say, "Oh, come on, just sit down. Let me put my hands on you. You'll feel better." My mom discovered she was clairaudient and clairvoyant. And they both got their ministerial license and just thrived after they retired from their physical job. Yeah.
So they had a belief in an afterlife. Do you think that's one of the reasons why we avoid the topic of death and dying, is because that some do not know or are afraid of what's going to come after this life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so interesting because we have so many accounts of people that have died and they were pronounced dead, and they come back to tell of what they saw and what they heard. And we just have so many counts and so much report proof that this is not the end when we die. And yet people do not want to believe this. But remember too, in our society, we no longer see death as a natural part of life because we don't live in nuclear or extended families. The majority of people in America, the kids live in another state. They live in another city. We don't have extended families anymore. So we have lost the normalcy. The best we can do is to see our cat or dog die. That's the best. And it's time. It is time to begin to talk about, and it's okay to talk about it. It really is okay. And people come to me and they'll say, they'll say, my husband died. And I don't know if I should say this, but when I get into bed, I can see him. I can feel his arms around me. Am I going crazy? And I'll say, no, he's there. Just because you cannot see does not mean they're not there.
Hello there. It's the Friday evening fireside chat here on your New Thought Media Network. We are speaking with the Reverend Dr. Carole Ann Drick, who has a wonderful new book out called The Last Journey, a roadmap for the ending of days. It's available now on Amazon. You can get your Kindle copy and you can download it tonight. This is a wonderful book that goes from, again, discovery all the way to the end. So, Carole Ann, who did you write the book for?
Yes.
Yes.
Technically, the book is earmarked for people 50 and older. So that would take in children with aging parents. The truth is that, and this is probably the people that are it's getting close, so they're going to pick up the book type of thing. But actually, anybody, this will help them if they have somebody dying, if they work in hospice, if they are a nurse. I mean, it can help anyone, because part of the journey is also there's a chapter on the first year after you died. You know, what's going to happen to my children? What's going to happen to my things? And it talks about different things. And there are little stories in it. Like we have a story of one lady that called me and said, well, her husband had died 10 days before. And she called me and she said, well, I just washed his clothes for the last time.
Wow.
And I just wanted to say it out loud. Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. And we don't have to do it secretly and in a lower voice. And as we realize this is a normal, natural process, and once we know how the body closes down, then we can understand and begin to ask the right questions as far as our parent, our child, our loved one's care.
So, what is the main message of the book?
The main message? Actually, I think there are two messages. One is you have options, you have choices, and you need to speak up and you need to ask. And one of the questions you need to ask is, for what purpose? You know, doctors come to you and say, gee, we need to, your mom's having, your mom's not eating. We need to start an NG tube. We need to put, we need to start an IV. When you realize the body is closing down, it doesn't need food. Food keeps you alive. And when we give the body food, when we give the body start an IV, we're trying to pull the body back into life again. The first system to close down is the digestive system.
Yes.
Yeah. So the energy that the body needs to keep the heart and the lungs going, now it has to divert some of it over here. And and it makes it difficult on the body. So when we know these things, that question becomes so important, because it's us that, if I'm sick, what do your parents do? They make sure you get a lot of fluids. We drink fluids. We know that's important because we're going to get better. The dying person is not getting worse. They're dying. It's
Right.
a whole different ballpark.
So I have a friend of mine who lost her spouse about 1.5 years ago. Sometimes I get concerned about them, that their grieving is taking longer than maybe that I'm comfortable with. So talk to us about the process of grieving and how can we be supportive to our friends and family going through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now, grieving is different for everyone. My youngest daughter, she got married just after she got out of high school. And she called me one day they had been married maybe 6 months, and told me something that her husband was experiencing, and I said he needs to go to the doctor. I can only speculate, but with those symptoms, he needs to go to the doctor right away. And they found that he had cancer.
Yes.
And he did eventually pass, very gently. And she wrote me a very beautiful letter. And she said, Mom, I just need time and to be by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not call me.
Okay.
Please do not come over. I just need time. And for 14 months, she would go to work and she would come home. That's all she did. Well, my heart was just breaking because I wanted to hold her. And so what I decided to do is, she didn't say I couldn't write to her. So every week I would send her a card. I would go into the drugstore and find the card, and I would send it. And every couple of weeks, I would get some flowers, and I knew when she got home from work, so I would leave a bouquet of flowers so she would find it. And in the cards, I would put, today I hung the clothes out, and they smell so good when I put the sheets on the bed. But I would say just little things to kind of keep her in reality. And then one day, I got a letter from her. And she said, Mom, I want to thank you so much. Your cards and the flowers were a lifeline for me. I needed that, and I so appreciate you accepting and your patience.
So what are the signs of healthy grieving and what are the signs of unhealthy grieving? And when one notices some signs of unhealthy grieving, what should we do?
Gee, that's a good question. I don't know as I have a whole lot of answers for you, because everybody's grieving is different. Kubler-Ross said, these are the stages of grieving. Later on in Kubler-Ross's life, when she was dying, she said, I was wrong. There are different, you don't have to go through those stages. You can go through 2 of them. You can not go through one. You can stay in one for 6 months. Everyone is so very, very different. There are some people that have great difficulty in letting go. I have a friend that is in that place. And I find one of the things that I can do is, when she calls, I can listen to her for a little bit, and then I will gently change the topic to ask her, oh, gee, it's spring. May I ask you a question? Oh, gee, it's spring. Are your hyacinths blooming yet? And she will say, oh, I didn't even look outside to see. And I said, well, would you do that for me? Would you go out and look at your hyacinths today and give me a call back? And she would do it. And she would say, that felt so very good. So I really believe it's a process of listening to them, not commiserating with them, but listening with an open, loving heart. And if you've had somebody that has passed, you can say, I understand what you're saying. Or if you haven't, you can say, I understand my dog died. And I know it's not a person, but he was very close to me. And I understand this. And just saying that you understand gives them a connection, a lifeline.
We are talking with this evening here on the New Thought Media Network, the Friday evening Fireside Chat with author, Dr. Carole Ann Drick, who's written her 4th book on ending of days. It's called The Last Journey, a roadmap for ending of days. Again, this is a wonderful resource to put into the hands of family and friends and yourself, because it really does give you a map, something to think about. Because again, that we do, like what Dr. Carole Ann was talking about, we do not have a map, because again, that our culture tends to be youth oriented instead of allowing also for the wisdom of the elders to come through. So my question also is, I noticed that you have 2 other authors. So how did the 3 of you get together and put together this book without killing each other?
We became a quasi family. And in families, we did not kill each other. We did not get upset. We'd almost get upset. But I think one of the advantages that we had was the fact that we were nurses, and we all had, 2 of us were nurses, and one was an elder advisor. So all of us had really good training in communication and all. But in general, what it was for me, there were so many learning opportunities, and I like to, rather than see them as difficulties and challenges, I see them as learning opportunities, because we have the challenge, we have the difficulty, because we have something that we need to learn. And we got pretty good at really dropping down into our heart and listening and hearing what each other was saying. And one of the techniques that I used was to look for the 3rd solution. Actually, the 4th solution, because many times we had 3 different things as far as how we were going to do. And yes. I would say, okay, how can we bring these all together and all of us get an ice cream cone? And the first time I said that, they said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, well, if we get a win-win-win, then that means I get an ice cream cone and each of you get an ice cream cone. How can we find that solution that everyone can be happy and can live with? And it took, it took some effort, but it very much was worth it. It deepened our relationships, and it proved to be very effective. We also found that if we met every week, 1:30 on Thursday, and it was, we kind of had fun with it, because one of us lived on the West Coast, I lived on the East Coast, and then the 3rd person, she had a house on the West Coast and the East Coast. So East meets West, and she flies in between. But it was a very growing experience for us, and was also a time that some of the unresolved things that we had around death and dying came up, and we were able to support each other. So it turned out to be very therapeutic. It turned out to be just an incredible opportunity. And it took longer than we expected to be done in a year. It took almost 2 years. But it was worth it. It was worth it. The picture on the front cover, when you take a look at it, oh my goodness, it makes you want to pick up the book. It just feels good, and that's what we were going for. It took us 3 months just to do the cover.
Wow.
And it was worth it.
Wow. We're almost out of time. I just, on the screen right now is, again, from Amazon. It's available tonight. The Last Journey, a roadmap for ending of days. It's available now, either in paperback or Kindle, for $9.95. Again, this is a wonderful resource for anyone, wonderful resource for ministers, wonderful resource for practitioners who do work with those making their transition, because it gives you a complete map about things that you could be doing, things that you can even be talking to the individual about. Like, for example, like, how do you want to be remembered as far as your memorial service? Do you even want one? Again, all of that's in the book. So again, get a copy of that $9.95 that's available now on Amazon. And I know that, again, it's going to be a real blessing to you, because, again, we don't, even in ministerial training, we don't talk about death and dying, even in the pastoral care program. So, again, this is a really good resource for you. We're almost out of time. Any last closing thoughts here?
Yes, all life has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when we are born, there is much fanfare. And when we die, we kind of get out the best way we can. It's getting better. But when you ask people how they want to die, they usually say, I want to die at home. I want to be surrounded by family or friends. And this book gives us power, because knowledge is power. Knowledge to know the right questions. Knowledge to know what to expect. Knowledge to open the doors to our family and be able to begin conversations with them. And that's what I really leave you with, is this gives you the knowledge to have a peaceful death and help whoever the other is to have a very gentle death. It will be much easier, and they will be blessed, and you will be so blessed.
Well, the music is going, which means we have to get out of here. Dr. Carole Ann Drick, again, thank you so very much. Her book is called The Last Journey, A Roadmap for Ending of Days. It's available tonight on Amazon. It's a great book. And I think it's a topic that we need to be aware of, especially those of us in the spiritual community. So again, Dr. Carole Ann, again, thank you so very much. Really appreciate you being on today.
Thank you. It's my honor. Many blessings.
Thank you. So, hey, time to go. So just to let you know again, go to our website, ntmedia.org. There we are always adding programs, and also that you have the opportunity here to support what we're doing here to really get this empowering message to the world. Again, ntmedia.org/donate. Again, on behalf of all of us, including my producer, who I appreciate so much, Diego Reyes, this is Reverend Michael Mangus, and I'm wishing you a very pleasant week.
Thanks for joining us this evening for Friday's Fireside Chat with Pastor Michael Mangus. Join us again next week at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain for more spiritual conversations for today. For more information and replays of past shows, please visit the New Thought Radio and Media Network's Facebook page. Until next week, may God bless you richly and abundantly.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.